Chairwoman Green, you and my Republican colleagues have called this hearing that is all about cutting off money to nonprofits for things that are, quote, contrary to the national interest. What we've heard here is my Republican colleagues going after nuns and priests that feed immigrants, going after nonprofits that do scary things like support our queer youth. It is astounding to me. But we do have one nonprofit leader here, Mr. Krikorian. Mr. Krikorian, you're the director of the Center for Immigration Studies, correct?
Yes.
And according to your organization's website, you do receive taxpayer funding or have from the Department of Justice and the Census Bureau.
Yeah, we did research contracts for them many years ago.
Got it. And so you do have a taxpayer-funded nonprofit, and your nonprofit, as we've discussed in committee before, has shared articles from Kevin McDonald, whose work argues that Jewish people, alleged by him, are genetically driven to destroy Western societies. Is that correct?
We distributed no such article.
But you did distribute work from this anti-Semite, correct?
We distributed work all across the spectrum,
Right, from
New
his-
York
from this
Times to
anti-Semite
anyone
comment.
else.
Got
yes.
it, okay. Your organization has also circulated an article by Holocaust denier John Friend. Is that correct? We said last time we were in a hearing that yes, you have.
We've distributed no articles about Holocaust denial, obviously. It has
But you
nothing to
have
do
from
with us.
Holocaust denier John Friend?
I don't know, but I assume so, yeah.
Your website right here does talk about that.
Yeah.
So I have a yes or no question. Is promoting the work of Holocaust deniers and anti-Semites contrary to the national interest?
Promoting Holocaust denial and what have you is contrary to the national interest. That's why we haven't done it.
But you have promoted the work of Holocaust deniers. Like John Friend.
There were several examples. We've also promoted the work of Open Borders people in that effort to present a broad range of views. Yeah, absolutely. And we don't endorse one way or the other.
So you have promoted the work of Holocaust deniers, but have you received anything from Doge asking whether they want to cut your funding? Have Republicans called you in to ask about your nonprofit and said, hey, we don't like that you've promoted the work of Holocaust deniers? Have you had any funding cut by Doge or by this committee?
We don't get any funding to be cut.
But you have received Department of Justice funding. And
Decades ago, yes, yeah.
And so, look, let me just be real clear here. This hearing is not about taking on nonprofits that are going, quote, against the national interest or who are, quote, extreme. This is all about trying to shut down nonprofits who might share political views that are different from that of the President of the United States. This hearing, they're going after organizations they call radical because they're kind to kids that are having trouble in school, kind to kids that are trying to figure out who they are in the world. They're going after nonprofits, and you, sir, and your nonprofit are saying that the radical people are the priests and nuns that feed the hungry, the nonprofit organizations that, yeah, give shelter to immigrants, that I understand your Center of Immigration Studies does not like immigration very much. But let me tell you, the radical folks aren't the folks out there doing good. The radical folks that you might disagree with, their version of the good, but the radical folks are the people that in your face come to this committee hearing and are sharing through their websites, through their listservs, articles by Holocaust deniers. And you're saying, yeah, we didn't share the Holocaust denying articles, but we shared some of his other stuff. I'll make my last point here clear. I represent Texas. I have long-standing ties to the city of El Paso, where in 2019, 23 people were murdered at a Walmart. The murderer said, quote, it was based on the Hispanic invasion of Texas. And after the shooting, Mr. Krikorian, you said that the manifesto was, quote, remarkably well written. Can you tell us which part of his manifesto was remarkably well written?
What I meant by that was that it seemed improbable for a nutcase like that to have written something that was relatively, at least grammatically correct. That was my point.
Look, folks here on this committee are trying to shut down nonprofits because they disagree with them. your nonprofit and you, sir, saying that the El Paso shooter had a manifesto
The
that's
gentleman's
well-written,
time has
that is
expired.
extreme,
The
and
gentleman's
what goes around comes around. And it's
The
just
gentleman's
important.
time has expired.
Chairwoman, okay.
I now recognize Mr. Jack from Georgia for 5
Chairwoman,
minutes.
I just want to make clear
Thank you,
that
Madam
what goes
Chair.
around can come
and
around.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good morning. Mr. Kerkorian, you're an advisory board member for Project 2025, correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Kerkorian, in addition to being a Project 2025 board member, you also run the Center for Immigration Studies. You've done that for decades, where you spread and disseminated writings of people like Kevin McDonald, John Friend, and Jared Taylor, correct?
We used to have an email service that distributed links to
those
op-ed.
to their writings. That's
and
right.
and the New York Times and all kinds of other
Correct. And you,
across
so
the board.
yes, I know that you're aware that you spread the writings of these three along with others, but these three are egregious examples. McDonald is the editor of a white nationalist journal. Your organization, as you said, disseminated his writings. He blamed Jewish people for the deaths of millions of people in the 20th century. John Friend, who you just said you disseminated his writings, is an infamous Holocaust denier. You spread his writings. Jared Taylor stated, quote, and I quote, this horrible quote, that when black people are left on their own, civilization disappears, end quote. That's what he said.
Not
You, a
anything
Project
we
2025,
We distributed only
you only
op-eds
distributed,
about
correct, I understand. I'm
immigration
reclaiming my
issues.
time, Mr. Chairman. Correct, you only disseminated writings
Nor
from
did we
multiple white
research the
nationalists.
background
Reclaiming my
of
time,
every
I'm going to
person
ask you a question, sir. I'm going to ask you the next
wrote
question.
about immigration.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like that time back. So you, a Project 2025 board member, you're stating you did not disseminate, for example, Mr. Taylor and Mr. McDonald or Mr. Friend's specific quotes here, but you continuously disseminated these white nationalists' writing. One time is a problem. When you do it over and over and over again, it's a pattern. But I'll stop asking about the things that you and your organization disseminated. I'll ask you, Mr. Kerkorian, and I know you're a Project 2025 board member, your recent quote from a few years ago where you said, quote, Haiti is so screwed up because it wasn't colonized long enough, end quote. Is that correct? Did you say that?
I'm happy to talk about that all you want.
You did say it, that's
I wrote
right.
it, yes.
You said that. Haiti was colonized as a slave plantation colony. The French colonized Haiti so that slaves would work on plantations. The end of colonization in Haiti was so that the people there would no longer be slaves. So what you're saying, and I read your quote, and anybody watching this online should go read it. What you're saying is it would have been good if they'd stayed colonized, which means that it would have been good if they had stayed enslaved by the French.
In the long run, it's one of the
In the long
tragedies of
run,
history. No, excuse
people
me,
shouldn't have been enslaved a
Congressman,
single day.
of
I'm
course
reclaiming
not.
my time, Chairman.
And they had every right. They had every right to throw the.
What you
French
said
out.
is that
My
you would have
point
wanted
is,
them. Reclaiming my time. I'm
They
talking
would
now.
have been freed
You
30
said
years later,
you said
and they would have been in the same situation.
You're saying you wanted
as-
30 more years of slavery in Haiti. Reclaiming
I
my
did
time.
not. I did
You
not.
just said
I
it.
do not
Honestly,
want that.
it adds up. You said that they would have benefited from the French influence.
In
The
the
French
long
were
run,
the ones.
like the people in Martinique and
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman. I'd like my time back. Please, Mr. Chairman,
enslaved.
my time. This is my time, Mr. Kerkorian.
They are much better off.
Honestly,
now
this
than
all
Haiti
starts
was.
to add up. This all starts to add up. You continue to do this, disseminate writings of white nationalists, try to rationalize, for example, Haiti being colonized for 30 more years. You're a Project 2025 board member. In Project 2025, I couldn't figure out why on page 583, it advocates for not allowing racial disparity or gender disparity to be considered discrimination legally anymore. In Project 2025, it eliminates a 50-year-old executive order that prohibits discrimination in federal jobs. On page 586, Project 2025 advocates for Donald Trump to allow businesses to discriminate based on religious beliefs. Before today, I couldn't understand why Trump's Project 2025 could advocate for ending civil rights protections. Why would Trump's Project 2025, I know there's crazy stuff in here, but I couldn't get why it would advocate for ending protections against discrimination. But now I understand. We have Project 2025 board members here who are the directors of groups that the Southern Poverty Law Center has designated as a hate group. We have people that are on the board that developed this who have said, for example, that Haitians would have been better off with more influence from their enslavers.